Hello everyone. I just noticed we have the wrong banner, so let me correct that. We're not looking into material today. We are looking a little bit into the roadmap, but what we missed is, this is 100 days of code, and today is day 81, and we have the guest that keeps on living, Leon Andersen, with us today. Leon, how are you doing?
Hello. I'm tired AF, but I've been coding along to some Material UI mini app at the end of the course, but there's really nothing interesting there. It's basically very similar to hooking up Bootstrap elements or Bootstrap styles, and so that's why we decided that today we talk about the roadmap instead of that stuff that I'll show
Exactly.
you.
So
To do this tomorrow. The tiny app.
exactly. So as you guys know, Leon Andersen is about to finish this course from Cold Steel, the Web Developer Bootcamp 2023. And the question is, where do we go from here? And one of the things, like the course is brilliant in teaching you all the basics of web development. And then you may be asking yourself, okay, what do I need to learn next, with the end goal of getting a highly paid, ideally remote, but if you prefer office job, like just to get a great job. So you get paid for all of the stuff that you've learned here, right? And two of the core technologies out there that are very valuable are Tailwind and Next.js. And that these two should probably be the focus for what you want to learn after the Web Developer Bootcamp. So Tailwind, let's look at Tailwind first. TailwindCSS.com. Tailwind CSS, as you can see here, is basically a way to style your app using classes. And getting styling, like solving the problem of styling, is incredibly hard in terms of scalability. Like how do you build an app that scales well, where every developer can learn the patterns, how to apply the styles without making it overcomplicated or without having people learn too much and miss also stuff like how do you not override each other's styles, right? With CSS, cascading style sheets, what can happen is that, some person changes the style and suddenly stuff is changed that they didn't even mean to touch. And one of the solutions that has kind of emerged as of the victor, so to speak, in the styling ecosystem is CSS. So the recommendation is, and by the way, Leon, feel free to be like, no, I want to do something else. So this roadmap planning is us planning his roadmap live. And these are just the suggestions that I prepared. So feel free to reach out. But this course right here, Learn Tailwind CSS, Course for Beginners Crash Course, is a brilliant course on YouTube that teaches you all of the basics of Tailwind. And I recommend that once you finish the Web Developer Bootcamp, you watch this next. Do you want to already give your thoughts? Should I first walk you through my whole suggestion of the roadmap? How do you want to do that?
I'm really curious about how or why why Tailwind is the winner. I guess you meant Tailwind, not CSS, right? Because you said the winner in the ecosystem is CSS.
Yeah, I misspoke. I'm sorry.
So I'm really curious why it is the winner, because the stuff that you mentioned with compatibility between coders and scalability in projects and ease of use, how they can be solved is an interesting quest. So
we can go briefly into it. So the basic way of styling things is the one that you already learned about in the course, right? Where you have a CSS file, and I think it's even in the code sandbox, yeah, where we have like some CSS file, and then we import it here, right? And it's kind of applied globally, and that is one of the problems, right? In a true code base of a big app, you maybe have like hundreds or thousands of files. And because CSS by default is cascading, that means if, let's say we have in this style sheet, we have something that's called dot heading, and we say here in our main file, we want all headings to have a color blue, right? And then we create a different file here. Maybe it's like a presentation.js, like some representation component. By the way, I love that now you probably are able to completely understand what's going on here because you now understand React. And this presentation component maybe has a different heading in here, like let's do it with H2, H2, and this is like my presentation, and now this gets a class name of dot heading, and in our app.js file, we're also going to give this a class name of dot heading. So if code sandbox works, oh yeah, the dot here needs to go away. No, wait, all the way around. The dot here needs to go away. I'm using the have so CSS so rarely that I'm having like the regular CSS so rarely that I'm having a hard time coming up with the example on the spot without bugs. But as you can see now, this heading is blue, and both have a class name of heading, right? But now the designer or someone comes and be as like, hey, for the presentation, we should actually have a red heading. So you say, cool, I'm giving this heading that is red, and then we're going in here, and now we're going to import /presentation.css, I think. Oh yeah, first of all, before we do that, let's first import the presentation here. So we're gonna go in here, and we say presentation like this. Can we auto import it? It doesn't work, so we need to do it manually. Am I even exporting it? Of course not. Why would I export default like this? And now we go in here and we say import presentation. Yeah, nice. Okay, so now we can see both are blue, right? Because the dot heading class is shared between both files. And now we're going to activate our special little CSS that we wrote here because we have the new requirement, and boom, suddenly both headings turn red. Ouch, we don't want this, right? And that is some of the things that can go wrong with just regular CSS. So you always have to make sure that things have unique class names. And there are conventions for that. I think one is called BAM, or yeah, BEM, like BAM, right, where people have come up with like weird conventions that you have to follow. And so all components basically have their unique styling, and there's literally, I think, even a foundation and stuff like that. It's obviously open source, right? And like a big ass protocol on how to write classes that are not conflicting with each other, right? Then one thing that evolved in the ecosystem, which is interesting to look at, is so-called CSS in JS. And CSS in JS is basically a way to write styles in JavaScript that then get applied to your React code. Let me show you one of the most popular libraries for this, Emotion. So what you basically do is you have different syntaxes that you can use to style your components. So, for example, here's the CSS syntax where you call it with a template literal, and then you write the styles into it, and that is all the styles that get applied to only this element, right? And what happens behind the scenes, I don't know. I think people, yeah.
No, that was just
Okay,
interesting. A
good.
grunt to confirm the interestingness.
Okay. So when I share my screen, it doesn't show you guys my inspector. So I'm going to make a quick screenshot, and I'm going to put it in here, and I'm going to share this tab, and then I'm going to make sure that it's nice and big so you can see it. like this. So as you can see here, it says hover to change, right? And if we look in here, hover to change, this is this button that you can see on the screenshot here. And if you look at the class, you can see it says CSS-1H3IVCL, which is basically gibberish. But this is good, right? So the how CSS and JS solve the, hey, let's not override each other problem is by basically generating gibberish classes for each of the different stylings so they never conflict. Yay, right? That's great on the one hand. The problem is with CSS and JS is, first of all, it's using JavaScript, and that can cause problems for certain server-side rendering things. We haven't jumped too much into server-side versus client-side rendering, but one of the items for the roadmap is Next.js, and you're going to learn a lot more about that there. And the second way to style things is this, where you can import styled from the CSS and JS library, and there's a style.button, right? And there's a style.div, style.h1. Oh, sorry. That happens often with me. I often forget to switch for screen shares. Okay, so there is something called style that you can import from the CSS and JS libraries. I think the second biggest one, what else is the second biggest one? Styled components, I think. This one, it has literally the same syntax. So if we look here, it also has styles, right, that you import. So they both share literally the same way of writing things. And basically there's a style.button, style.div, style.h1. All the native HTML elements here are available on the styled object. And then you can just style them like this. And afterwards you can use your styled button and reuse that throughout the code base. That was because the problem with this was like, hey, this is all in line, and there's a special CSS class that we now have to use on the div. Like, people didn't like it too much. So this is the second syntax that basically evolved and is now supported by most CSS and JS libraries. But again, like, the main problem with this one is that you don't know by reading this what styles are attached to this object, right? You just see a gibberish class. And the other problem is also now you have to import all of these. You have to basically define all your components in a styled way, and then you have to take care of the props and stuff. So there are people who were like, okay, do we create, for example, button.styles.js, where we only define the styles and then we import the button from button.styles.js in our real button, and then in the real button we put all the React stuff, the unclick handle and stuff like that. And now we have this button because we want to reuse it and we import it, right? It just gets still very complicated. So this is basically the second way of styling that people are using, which is still somewhat broadly used, but yeah, it just also didn't scale too well. And that's when Tailwind came around. So let's actually reload the website so you can see how nice it is. The cool thing with Tailwind is that basically all of the different attributes that you give to your code, to your CSS, are abstracted away behind certain classes. And in the beginning, it's like, oh, I don't know what these classes mean. But if you use Tailwind CSS, after a while, it feels super natural and you can read this very naturally. So, for example, this image right here, right, is currently, now they change it to rounded none. Let's actually reload this real quick. So pay attention to this image, right? Right now it has the class width 24, height 24, and then it's getting rounded full in MX Auto. Let me reload one more time. So it's a square, right? Because it only had a width and a height. And then the cursor is adding the rounded full class, turning it into a circle. Let's look at it one more time. It's a square, and rounded full is added, and it becomes a circle. And then MX Auto basically means, margin auto on the x-axis. Okay, so where are we going with this? So this is super scalable because it only confines the classes to the elements where the CSS is actually used. And that makes it super concise and super easy also, because after a while everyone understands all the classes, because it has a little bit of a learning curve, but most of these things you can probably understand even if you've never used CSS. Font medium, what could that mean? Maybe font size medium. or text LG, probably something like text so many pixels, text sky 500, probably the sky color, and then there are different shades, from 100 to 900, so it's probably like a medium bill-ish, medium sky-ish. So even if some stuff might be unfamiliar, after a while it will be super easy to understand. Also, what this makes super easy, if we look at how style JSX is dealing with things like a hover effect, it does it in the way that CSS does it. But the problem is, in CSS, you always have to remember how do we do this stuff, the and sign and the colon sign. I don't even know if you had that in the course, because once you start to do like active stuff with classes, CSS gets pretty complicated in the sense that you have to learn a lot of syntax. There are lots of different signs and characters that do special things inside of CSS. And with Tailwind, it makes it human readable because Tailwind actually says, hey, or on the breakpoint MD, make this class, give it the flex property. There's no example here for hover, but even hover is there. So handling hover, for example, you just say hover colon BG sky, which means, hey, if you hover this button, give it this different color. So it makes styling very easy and abstracted away in a way that humans can understand it very well. And then there's the last aspect, which is bundling. So when you put your CSS on your website, then all of the classes that you attach to your components need to be shipped to the client. And with all these gibberish that was generated by CSS and JS meant that the style sheets actually got very big if the app was big, because all of the classes, all these gibberish classes that probably had lots of duplicate styles were all shipped to the client, which just bloated up the requests a little bit, which in the West, when you're fast internet, isn't too bad. But if you have clients in India, I mean, there are many parts of India that also have fast internet, but let's just say there are parts of the world that don't have like too good of an internet connection. All of these parts basically struggle with these big bundle sizes. Or maybe you're on a very slow mobile network that can even happen in Western countries, right? If you're somewhere on the countryside, your internet might be super slow. And now all these websites load slow just because there's so much CSS that might not even be used on the specific page that you're on, because usually all classes were shipped with each request. And this is something that Tailwind also handles well, because all of these classes are shared between the components, right? Every component that wants to have the Slate background uses the same class. So there's lots of reuse within the classes, which actually makes the CSS that gets shipped to the client very slim, making the request very efficient. This was a big rant, but I hope it made sense. Any questions?
Can you repeat the first sentence?
Yes. So when we
Awesome. Yeah, that sounds really interesting. I've got to be honest, I'm not that interested in the whole design styling thing at the moment, but I feel like learning one of them solidly, like the one that you just like Tailwind, what you just showed me, it definitely feels like home. Like I can like when you recognize like a protocol that fits your needs, or a method to do anything in life, whatever. You come across it and you feel like, oh yeah, this could be it. I definitely feel that towards Tailwind. There's definitely some interest to get a at least basic foundation for styling with that.
That is great. And also, it is important to notice that you're going to use stuff that abstracts away lots of the Tailwind for you later, but it's still important that you get a good grasp on the fundamentals. So in case you ever need to dig down into some of the open source stuff that you're leveraging, you can understand it and you can tweak it to your needs. That's why I'm suggesting to you that you learn Tailwind, just so you can tweak it if you need to, but you use the abstractions that other people created for 19% of the time.
So there's an even So there are even more levels of abstraction above that, or what?
Exactly. So for example, we have
Oh no.
Shed CN UI, which basically gives you all of these components that you can just use in your app, like buttons pre-made for you, calendars pre-made for you, you know. So, but I swear we're almost at the bottom of the rabbit hole, you know. So you only need
Okay.
to learn Tailwind and then Shed CN, and then you have explored all of the rabbit hole that's worth exploring there. So don't worry.
Okay, because like at first it was just CSS, then it was Bootstrap, then it was Material UI, and now now there's Tailwind, and then there's Sheds. Okay,
Yeah, it's
but
depending on where you work, it's very likely that you're never going to see Bootstrap and Material UI again.
okay. I mean, last time you said maybe Material UI at some job, but
Yeah, I mean, Material UI is still the most used library. So statistically speaking, there's a chance that you will see it.
yeah. But yeah, how long would you say does it take to learn Material UI? Like if I get a project that has it, like, I mean, it should be quite fast to acquire, shouldn't it?
Most of the stuff, yeah. So if you look at it here, for example, MUI core, uh,
You're not showing it?
yes, it's not loading. I would love to show it. Get started. What about core? Oh, okay, interesting. So let's jump into one of the components here. Button. And okay, we see a button, very understandable, right? And they're outlined in text. And we see here variant text, variant contained, variant outlined. So I think you, with your existing React knowledge, you know, button primary, button disabled, then it looks like this. At a link, you can click it and it takes you somewhere. I think with your existing React knowledge, you already understand what's going on here.
Yeah, it's like a mix of Bootstrap and React.
Exactly.
So
Yeah,
yeah,
there's not too much to learn.
I guess the most the biggest thing to learn is just routine.
Exactly. Cool. So that was our little detour into CSS, and that takes us back to the roadmap. So that is, I think, the thing you should do next. And then you should learn Next.js, which is the biggest framework out there, and it will open so many doors for you. And in Next.js, there are two different ways to run it right now. The pages directory and the app directory. The app directory is brand new and it's the thing that Next.js is pushing a lot. However, I recommend when you start out, you just ignore the app directory and you only focus on the pages directory. And I even linked a little tutorial here for you, and I'm going to send you this, by the way, too, so you have it, which only focuses on the pages directory. And what can we see here? Okay, it's I get a 404 when I click it, so I need to make sure this link has working correctly. Okay, I need to really quickly grab that link fresh, otherwise I'll show you something useful on screen while I explain why we want to do this. Let me quickly find it. I think they might have taken down it, so I'm gonna find you a different link so you can. Yeah, Next.js have really not shown too much love to the pages directory. Ever they had their new little child. So let's see if we can at least use the normal docs for it. But ideally, you know, I'm going to look for a nice tutorial for you. But let's look at this in the beginning. So, what is Next.js? So in most apps that you've built or in the apps that you've seen so far, you always had two things, right? You had your Node.js, your Express application, your server, and you had your front end. and the front end was talking to the server, and the server was responding and stuff like that. And since you can write JavaScript on the back end and you can write JavaScript on the front end, people were like, why can I not do it all in one place? And one of these solutions that emerged in the JavaScript ecosystem that was highly successful, or is still highly successful, was Next.js. So without giving you like too much of a tutorial right now on the fly, let's see. There are just some things that it's a framework, right? The framework around React that gives React a lot more power by basically allowing you to write code, sometimes even in the same file, that part of which runs on the server and part of which runs on the client. So you don't need to run two projects. You can just run one thing and it can handle everything for you, reading data, writing data, and learning the pages router. So why do you want to learn that first? Because even though later for the stuff that you're going to build yourself, you probably want to use the app router because it's the latest thing. It's also one of these things that if you know the pages router, it's great for resume and getting future gigs and getting into great companies. So that's why it's such a valuable thing to learn. Questions, thoughts about Next.js?
So even though Pages is older than the app directory, it's more. There's more prestige to it, or
it's just better for the job market still, because the app directory is like 2 months or so now live, meaning out of beta. Right. It's stable, right? So almost any company will still run the pages directory, and most companies maybe then have a little team that is starting to explore things with the app directory, but most companies, their code is in a way where they might not be able to upgrade, right? So the pages directory, at least on the job market, still has tons of application.
Okay, so I didn't fully understand what you meant with that some stuff is client side, something server side, or I don't know. But it sounds like some important stuff to me. So
okay, let me try to simplify it, because it's like one of the crucial points to understand about Next.js, and I think understanding it before you even jump into it now on some level will help you put everything that you learn into context. So in the code that you've built, right, I think one of the main examples was the Yelp camp one, where you had campgrounds, right, and you had the reviews and stuff, and everything there was running in your Node.js server, right, and your Express app. So you could say this stuff is server side. Make sense?
Yes.
Okay. And then you have your React app. I think in Yelp, okay, here's why you probably still struggle to distinguish the two, because in Yelp camp, you were using EFM, which was kind of all sent still by Express. So in the app that you're going to build, and I think then you can,
right?
yeah, EJS, yes, EJS. Yeah. I mean, I'm never using it, so that's why I confuse it. This to-do list that you're building, I don't know, then there you're using local storage, so you're never going to even see an app that puts both sides of it together. It's unfortunate, but doesn't matter too much. So let's just try to explain it as much as we can do. So imagine you were not using EJS, but instead you were using React, right? So if you were to use React to fetch data from the Node.js server, you would need to use on-click handles with like fetch, and they would need to grab data and load it from the Node.js server. So you have some stuff that runs on the client, meaning in the browser of your user client side, the code that, let's say you fetch a campground and then you put it into an array in a use state, and this all runs client side, but then the reading the campground from the database, that runs server side. So in this way, you have some state and some logic that runs in the browser. We call it client side because it's on the client, the user that uses your app, the browser that uses your app, and there's some stuff that runs on the server, which we call server side.
Mm-hmm. But why does the the browser do so much in this case?
Well, just because it has to, right? Like, if you want to render something with React, you need it in React. And in order to get it into React from your server, you need to make a fetch request to the server and get the data.
So React is basically built together in the browser and not in the backend and then pushed to the browser, or no?
It's a little more complicated than that. So basically, when you make a request to the server to load the initial web page, then the server responds with the JavaScript for React. Then your client starts executing React on the front end. And once this execution is finished and built up, then React starts running. And React now says, hey, maybe I have a use effect here that tells me I need to fetch more data from the server. And then React in that use effect runs, and that use effect fetches the campgrounds from the server. And then the reply comes into the React frontend, and React is like, okay, when the data from the server comes in, I need to put it into my state. And then you put it into the state, and then React says, oh, my state is updated. So what do I need to render now? I list. That's basically the flow.
So would you say that's like too many unnecessary re-renders, or what's the problem with that?
There is no problem with it. The problem is more on the dev conveniency, right? Because just from the fact that, let's say you work on a project like that, you have to run 2 processes on your computer. And if you want to change something in one app, let's say you add a new field to the campgrounds, right? Or even better, removing a field is even better. So let's say you remove a field from the review section, then your app might break because it expects a field to be there that is not there. So you need to always first then change your front end to stop consuming it. And then you need to also change the backend to stop sending it. Versus when it's all in one application, you just, remove it, and it's easily removed from both sides in one pull request and one in the same workflow.
What do you mean by field?
Like just a field, like a
box.
I don't know, the reviews had stars, or a name or content.
And when you remove in terms of removing it from the code, or like
removing? So let's say you have reviews, right? I'm saying the right one. So let's say you have reviews, right? And there's like a star rating, there's like a number, and it has like a content, like, hey, I like this, I like this. And then maybe let's say it also had a date, right? Like new date, and maybe your designer or project manager or someone comes in and is like, look, we no longer want to show the date anywhere. Like, we don't want to even say that because the EU has, passed some new law that you're not allowed to save dates for reviews, at all, because it has to be ambiguous to, preserve privacy. And then you're like, okay, we need to change that. And then you want to remove that date from the reviews. We want to remove that field from the reviews.
So removing a key from our schema, or
yeah.
Yeah, then I would have to delete inside of the schema, and I would have to delete all the like where the route handlers or the damn, are they called route handlers? Where the request handlers link to this, and delete the EJS elements, HTML and EJS elements of this thing, and then
In a React app, there wouldn't even be any EJS.
Yeah. I mean, sure. So, but schemas, right, for Mongoose.
If you run Mongoose and if you run all that stuff, yeah.
Okay. And so the inconvenience is that I have to delete from all these different places, or
Yeah, and if you do it in the wrong order, it blows up, right? Because if you, let's say, this is not only, like, let's say we have, before it was named review details, right? And here we had the date in here, like this, new date, right? And then on the front end, we were saying like, hey, we have our little review thingy here. Like, let's say it's a list with all the reviews. And we only have one review in here for now. It's like a list element like this. And first it has the titles, the content. So we say, hey, reviews dot content, or the review singular, that content like this is blown up because reviews doesn't exist like this. And we have the stars, and we have the review details dot date like this. Object element with an abstract child objects. While new date dot to string. Yeah, so here's our little review, right? And now we remove this because we need to remove it for some reason. Like we change our code to comply with some new requirement. And now this goes up, right? Because review details is undefined, and undefined does not have dot date. So it can cause errors. You always would need to first remove it from the front end, and then you would need to ship in a different code base the change here. Right? If it's all in one code base, it's a lot easier to catch.
what do you mean by code base? Because now we have both.
Just the body of code, right?
So can you have different code bases in the same file?
No. So okay, a code base is basically you refer to a code base of like a collection of code that belongs to one app, but an app can have two code bases, right? It can have a backend code base if you have like a folder that contains all your Express and Node.js code, and it can have a front end code base that contains all your React code.
Okay. Got it. So, and then with Next.js, the difference is that you can just delete stuff or edit stuff at one place.
Exactly, yeah. And you only need to run one code base, right? In order to run an app that uses React and Express, you would need to run the React app, and you would need to run the Express app at the same time.
And with Next.js, you only run Next.js and then everything works?
Yes, because Next.js has some stuff that runs on the server and some stuff that runs on the client. You can write it all in one app.
Sounds great.
So the original question was, hey, I didn't understand server side versus client side. Let's just to make sure that you understand it correctly. In your words, what does server side and client side mean, and what does it mean that Next.js does it all in one?
I mean, the different. Well, I don't know if that if that question actually has been answered, but what I understand is that we have all these different sub libraries like Mongoose, Node.js, Express, EJ, like we had EJS before, and it's just too complicated to have all these different places inside of the code, and on the like one part of it, this is I guess the complicatedness, the effort of that, but also that we have to make sure that we edit or delete stuff in the right order to not cause any errors. And client side in this case is the I guess HTML and EJS. Embedded EJS is embedded JavaScript, yeah. The HTML, EJS, CSS stuff maybe, and then the server side is all the Mongoose, Node.js, Express stuff.
Yes, that is kind of in the right direction. Let me actually draw one diagram just to make sure that it is a little bit more clearer. So this is our front end, or we call it also client side, and then here we have our back end server side. So, and the front end is running React, right? And React does
Yeah,
stuff like
I haven't built a React app with backend yet, so
I think that is the thing that makes it most complicated when you perform a mental model. But that is basically the flow here, right? Like React asks like, hey, what are your campgrounds? You know, and like this, and then so obviously this is an HTTP request here, right? Like a get request, make here like this, and here we say like, cool, like Mary with our little camera, you know, the response. So, and then React is like like doing something like UL saying like campgrounds.map, and then it's something that's over these campgrounds somewhere. This looks hopefully a little more fair. Yeah, that's nice. Can do one more break in here, so it looks a little bit more like HTML. Cool. Yeah, and in order to run this one, right, we have to run npm run start or something. Like I don't think you've done it so far because it was always only done in the Vite version, right? But if you ever run something locally, not in the code sandbox, then you would have to do that. And here you would also run something like npm run buffer. So to run node1, right? And now you have two processes that you need to run at the same time. And with Next.js, it's just like this giant thing basically that is full stack. It covers both client side and server side. And in it, you can just, fetch data from server and then immediately render that stuff. You don't even need to, depending on what you use, like in some versions, you need to, where is bigger misspelled? You need the
Yately.
Yeah, here, render the stuff. So in some versions, you don't even need to deal with JSON, right? So you're going to learn that, but there are ways where you can do the same things that you do with React, where you're using fetch and, you get data from a request handler or response handler, depending on how you will call it, right? But there are also some things where the API from Next.js just allows you to inject the data into your application without having to deal with all this stuff. And it's also just one command, run def, and then it runs. And then also, like, for example, another thing that Next.js does for you is routing. So here you would need to set up routing with something like React Router, for example, and Next.js has file-based routing. So you just structure your files in a certain way, and then you automatically get routes. Yeah, there are many more features that Next.js do for you, but this is kind of the basics of it. Does this make it a little bit more sense now?
Yes, say so. And part of me thinks, okay, that sounds like a lot of the stuff that I'm not going to use.
Yeah, but the thing is, it helps you to paint a picture into, like, it helps you to put stuff into context.
Yes, yes.
The thing is, it's hard to start with this stuff right away because, as you can see, it's a little bit more complicated, right? And it can be overwhelming. So it's better to learn stuff step by step. Even though there's a bunch of stuff that you're not going to use, you will still be able to appreciate this stuff, like the stuff that makes things easier. And again, like most code bases are not always up to date. You know, there are many code bases that are a little bit, let's call it outdated. So it's always good to know the old stuff.
Yes.
Okay. Now we covered Next.js, and then there's one more thing. So, as someone who has only been coding for a short while, and whose goal is it to get a really nice paying job, the biggest problem that you're going to have is credibility. So, because people are usually, in the job ads, they're writing like, "Hey, I need, I don't know, 3 years of experience," or even if you studied, like people usually choose people who have been building stuff for a year or two over someone who just came from uni because you at least know how to create stuff. So you got that going for you, but you need to be able to show people that you know how to create stuff. And the best thing to get started on that is to build your own website and create your own blog. And these tools, Tailwind and Next.js, are the perfect tools for that, to build blogs, because Next.js is very good at building static sites. We're going to get into what statics and server-side rendering, and there are still some nuances that we haven't covered today, but that you're going to learn. And the two tasks there is first, look at a bunch of blogs that you like and get inspiration. And then, your first task in the wild will come, which will be, think about, okay, how do you want your blog to look? What do you want, which pages do you want to have? How do you want it structured? And once you figured that out, then just build it using Tailwind and Next.js.
And what is MDX files?
MDX is a special type of file that is, so JSX is JavaScript and XML. MDX is Markdown in JavaScript. It's a little bit almost normal, but so this, what you see here, is a Markdown file, right? It has the ending MD, and let's just go to a random. Let's just go to the React GitHub open source repository right here, sharing this tab. All or almost all open source repositories always have what you call a README, right? Which is basically the README means, hey, you should read me, you should read this to understand how to navigate this code base, how to navigate this repository. And the file extension, the file type that just over the years crystallized as the best one for README, and this is not recent, like this is 20, 30 years old, is Markdown. And Markdown is just an easy way to write neatly structured documents, with like bold text. And if you ever use the tool, like for example, Obsidian, you will pretty much know how to write Markdown. And MDX is very good for blogs, because not only can you format text in any way you want to with like bullet points and stuff, you can also add a little bit of code in case you want to make this smart. So it's very easy to learn once you understand Markdown, and Markdown has a very shallow learning curve. Like, it's very easy to learn. So it's ideal to, write your first articles, because with MDX, you can insert code and make it neatly formatted if you want to, write about the new stuff that you learned during coding. If you want to show the new mathematical equation that you found out, you can insert special formatting code, special ways of formatting mathematical equations to render them very neatly in the browser and stuff like that.
So basically, instead of styling my text, my articles with CSS, I will, or with Tailwind directly, I'll basically do the styling and editing with Markdown, or
No, the styling will still be done with Tailwind, but once you've decided, hey, this is how I want my, okay, let's look at an example, because I know you strive on examples. So let's go to overreacted. Overreacted here. So overreacted,
can
right
see.
here,
Okay.
yeah, is a blog by Dan Abramoff. Dan Abramoff is one of the core people who contribute to React. Like he's one of the React legends, so to speak. And his blog is called Overreacted. It's like super nice to read, but I would say it's like still a little bit too early for. I think I've sent you some of the articles in our private DMs to answer some of your questions, but I think you should at least build your own blog to get some more real world experience before you jump into it, because you need some more context to really get the most out of these articles. Anyway, so you can see here, if we go, let's see his news article, I haven't even read it. You can see here, he has a heading, right? Here's some of what he wrote, and here's a code example, and here's something special formatted. And then here we can see even links, with code blocks, links with code blocks, just a code block without a link. Okay, so now let's go into GitHub over Reacted. I'm going to switch my screen share soon, don't worry. Where is it? Overreacted, get up here. It is. Okay. So now let's find this blog in his code base, right? His blog code base is open source. So the article is called A Chain Reaction. So let's go in here and write a chain reaction. It's here. So it's a markdown file. And as you can see here, this is how he is structuring it. So he just writes, and this is how you can then very easily create your own blog post. So he just writes some text, then he gives his code example with these backticks. He tells the front end, hey, this is what is coming here. It's going to be JavaScript code. Then later here, when the links come, similar to how stuff like Obsidian is doing it, you can say, hey, here is a link. This is code, right? Here's again, this is code. Here he puts a break. Like that, just this simple, special syntaxes that you can use to format your blog very elegantly. And this is the power of Markdown, basically. And the styling is done somewhere else. So the styling is actually done here.
Okay, then I'm just mixing up styling and formatting, because styling, we also have stuff like font weight, bold, and in Markdown we also use like these stars to make something bold. So I thought that's maybe
exactly. I mean, in Markdown you can say star to make something bold, right? Star word star to make the word bold, right? But then in your code you can say, hey, everything that is bold, I want to have in a pink color. So for example, what he chose, because his kind of color for his block is this pinkish, he says, hey, every link should have this pink underline right here, right? Which is not normal. So the way that he does it, well, let me see if I can find it under pressure here on the live stream. Let's see here. Where could it be? In his global CSS properly. Yeah. And now let's say let's use link. I think that's already it right here. With that link, let's check out that color. What is that color? It's here in Google X color. Oh yeah, it's that pink. See? So basically in a different file, he uses CSS, but you're going to use Tailwind. You can then say, hey, if I put this in Markdown, in the background, you basically say, use this React component and style it this way. So just because you say in Markdown, let's jump back to the article here. Just because in Markdown you say, for example, here's a link, it doesn't mean that it needs to have the default styling of the browser for a link. Instead, you can style it by hand in the exact way that you want it to look using Tailwind.
So it's basically Markdown and CSS or Tailwind merged with each other, or
Yeah, as a combination of both.
okay, so they interact with each other as well.
No, maybe a little bit. So it's gonna get a lot clearer once you've built it.
Okay. Got it. So yeah, sounds
And
cool.
nice. So this would be a roadmap after you finish the course, however long it will take you. And I just want to prepare you. These are going to be a few more difficulty spikes, right? So if stuff gets overwhelming, as you know, you can always ask me for help. Ideally, we solve your questions on stream, but we can also always handle minor questions outside of stream. I just want to prepare you because now there's no one. There will be, I mean, except for the crash course on Tailwind, and I'm going to look for a nice course on the pages directory for Next.js. But then when it comes to building your own blog, that's going to be the first time that you're going to craft something, just however you want it from scratch. So it can be a little bit overwhelming, and I just want to prepare you for that.
Got it. Would it be cheating if I look at tutorials on how to build a blog?
Absolutely not. No. That's also something whenever I interview developers and doing hiring, I always allow them to Google and even use ChatGPT, because those are the tools that are available to you in the real world too. So why would I artificially constrain you?
Got it. So then it's not really from scratch, right?
Well, some things you can steal, some things you can't. So it's just going to be real world. It's just going to be pure real world fiction.
Yeah, let's can steal.
Yes.
Got it. So I remember that you once sent me a beginner's guide to React course by Egghead. Is that still useful, or can I ignore that?
So, as I just found out today, there's still some stuff that I didn't even notice that you don't get taught in the best way from the code course. I think it was great to give you the fundamentals of JavaScript, but stuff that we just looked at in Excalibur, something like this. Well, I think it would be good if at some point you have something like this under your belt. However, I think what we want to do now is we want to first get you just some real world experience so that then when you decide, this interests me, I want to learn more about that you have some more context to put it into. Because you've now been like 80 days, by the time that you finish the course, maybe, 83 or 85 days or whatever of just learning in isolation. And I think it's really, and even the crash course and the Next.js course will give you a little bit more isolation still. So I think it's really important to switch it up for a little bit and just throw you out into the water.
Got it. So that Egghead course sometime later after this roadmap that we...
I mean, always fuel your curiosity, right? I would recommend this, but if you're like, I actually want to learn more about that, you can just jump into the Egghead course. But you will see that there will already be a lot that you understand. That could also be something, maybe you're like, hey, I just want to learn a little bit more about React. And you watch the course and you see, oh, actually, I know this. Oh, I know this. Oh, context. I haven't heard about context because I think the Egghead course teaches you about context, but you haven't learned it in code. And then you pay a little bit more attention there, or maybe you even code with the classes there. So if you basically follow your inspiration, if that is where your inspiration drags you right now, feel free to follow it. Otherwise, feel free to follow this road. You can decide.
Got it. So Tailwind before Next.js is also important, or can I switch that up?
You can switch that up, sure.
Okay. Yeah, we'll see what my curiosity is going, where it's going to on the day that I'm starting with that.
Nice.
Cool. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you too. Today I talked a lot, but I hope it was fun.
Yes, absolutely.
Cool.
Insight.
Any last epiphanies, words, things you want to share?
No, I think that's it. There's like some feeling of insecurity if maybe I need the foundation of React, of a React app with server side running as well. But I guess I will find that out in the Next.js course, and if I don't get further, then I'll have to see what new resources we can find.
Exactly. We can always tweak, right? And we're gonna make sure that at some point you're gonna see that.
Great. And oh yeah, if I'm going to copy code, or at least parts of it, I need to learn. I need to understand GitHub. I mean, I do understand the part where we browsed through some code. For example, I think what did we look at? We looked at React or something like that as well, or some, what was it again? I don't know. It doesn't matter. But we looked into some behind the scenes stuff from some of the component or protocols that we were working with, and I do understand like browsing that, but like I'm always wondering, like I've had moments in the past as well where I some GitHub page to where it was like yeah, if you want to use this program, here's the code, and I was like, well, how do I install this? Like, how do I like will I need to know more about that, or is it only necessary to be able to browse through the files and pick parts of it?
No, it's absolutely necessary that you know GitHub. I even debated if I want to include it already in the roadmap. The reason why I didn't was again because in my mind I think it's just like I thought the best thing for you to was to just jump into the real world, so to speak, as soon as possible. However, to even host your blog on the internet, you probably would need GitHub. So it totally makes sense if your curiosity already drives you there to learn GitHub sooner than later. I just wanted to balance, you know, overwhelming you and maybe even boring you without going to the real world with, going into the real world. But if you feel inspiration, curiosity, let's do it earlier.
And do you have a resource for that as well? How I can
Yeah, I'll look a good one up for you and send it to you. And then we're going to share it with the stream too.
Got it. So GitHub before Tailwind, or?
So GitHub will definitely be shorter. So you can even do it before Tailwind if you want. And then you can do fun stuff like, you know, cloning repositories on your local machine and checking them out on your local machine.
Sounds great.
Sweet. I'm going to send you those resources. Yeah, it's very good. And then we could even tweak it and, you know, you create a GitHub repository for your own blog from day one and you create your own GitHub account and stuff like that.
Sounds great. And can I do the Tailwind course inside of Code Sandbox, by the way?
I don't know. Let me quickly jump into it and give me just 1 second.
Sure.
So I don't know if he gives you a template for this. Let's see here. Doesn't look like he has any setup for this, but you can absolutely set up Tailwind in Code Sandbox. Let me quickly share my screen again. Share screen.
ChatGPT says I can use Tailwind CSS in Code Sandbox.
Yeah, I mean, you can definitely. The question is how hard it will be to set it up. So
Okay.
we can say create sandbox, and then we can say Tailwind results. Tailwind. All the box templates. For Tailwind starter. One discover page. Tailwind. Tailwind and React. Tailwind starter. What if we go in here? This is not React. This is HTML, but maybe that's enough. So yeah, you can let me send you it. But yeah, you can find pre-configured code sandboxes where you can just jump in. But I think Tailwind also has a playground. So if you go to tailwindcss.com here, and then for playground, not here. What if we look for Tailwind playground? Let go here. So yeah, there's even a playground where you can just play around with Tailwind if you want to.
Past 10 seconds. Like very bad internet.
You had bad internet in the past 10 seconds?
Your voice was like a robot cut off glitchy.
Got it.
Didn't understand.
So, but what, you can hear me again, Mo?
Yes.
Okay. So, Tailwind has a playground that you can use.
Okay, and HTML, CSS, can I use React in there as well, or is it doesn't matter to you for the course?
Does not matter at all because you're just using the class strings anyways. And the thing that's different for React is this.
Yes. Okay, cool. Cool. And yeah, I'll if I get into any issues, I ask
Great.
in the moment. Sounds
Nice.
cool.
So
Looking
I'm gonna
forward.
look for a tutorial on Next.js that's not gone, that's not been deleted. And I'm gonna look for another tutorial for Git and GitHub for you. And then you can just follow your curiosity once you done with the last part, which I think will still be super interesting for you to learn more about Material UI and then build your own little to-do list also using local storage.
I remember building my first to-do list with alarms and the console.
Oh yeah, so let's say your first to-do list using React.
The evolution of to-do lists.
Exactly.
Yeah, cool. Looking forward. And
Sweet.
also, it can be like if you don't find any proper free resource, I don't mind spending some amount similar to the web developer course again, right? So if there's
Got
something
it.
high quality, maybe by Cold or maybe someone else that you recommend.
There's nothing in that price range. So
Okay.
for one day, but I don't know if you ever needed. You probably like there's enough stuff out there that let's stick to free stuff, free stuff,
Got it.
and only something is really necessary, which it will hopefully from here on not be. We can recommend other paid stuff. I mean, I want to shout it out well because it is the best free stuff out there. It's just super expensive. It React. Share my screen. I just need to shout out for the people out there that are still watching. And this is the best course on React, but it's called Epic React. But the problem is it's $600. So in terms of just like value for your money, Cole's course is just better. Also, for this one, you have to know the basics of JavaScript. Uh, it doesn't teach you that, but this one is the best React course to get you from a beginner to grade. And maybe one day when you start earning money using code, it could still make sense to go through this just so because what he does in this one is actually building up your own React before he gives you the real React. And that's I think especially for someone like you super interesting because it shows you like the deeper fundamental levels of it.
Got it. Yeah, I see that there are some Next.js courses on Udemy, but I have no idea if those are any good.
I haven't used them. Let's see, udemy.com. We can always experiment, but there are also great Next.js tutorials on YouTube
Free
for
Code Camp and stuff.
Next.js 14. So this is the wrong one, right? We want to have 13. Next.js 14, Next.js 4. They've all updated, you know. The complete React guide. With developer bootcamp, you've done that one almost. Next.js 13 projects. Instagram, Google. Those are just 4 projects. Let's just see. Do they teach, let's say, what do they have here? 42 hours, 15 hours, 20 hours. Let's go to the 32-hour one. Maximilian Schwartzmiller. Let's see here. They use pages and file-based routing. Would be interesting to know if they're using the old directory or the new one. Name authentication. So December execution section. It calls Next.js for the app browser. So it sounds like they're only adding a new section, which is good, but I cannot find where's the new section. Like example API routes. This would be super valuable to know. Viewing doing data fetching. I mean, this looks like a great course if it's in the right frame, meaning if it's actually Next.js 13. React refresher, he goes through all the stuff with React, lifting state, could be a good refresher too, just to have everything done. But if he goes with route, I think you haven't covered routing. I think this could be a great course as a follow-up. If you want to do it, what's your decision?
And what kind of hours did you have in mind with the resources that you would have looked up?
Not 32. It's a trade-off, right? Like this will definitely give you more, like a more broader understanding. The thing is, a lot of these knowledge you will have to pick up at some point. It's more like, when do you want to do it?
Yes. Yeah, I mean, let's like what I mean, as you said, not 32. What would be the ballpark? More like 10 or?
No, like the story that I was sending you, maybe 5 to 10, like a day worth, like about without even watching, right? This, if you work through it and code with it, is probably, let's say at least times 2 or times 3, right? So this is probably like 90 hours or so worth of work, stuff that I wanted to send you around Next.js at least was like maybe 10 hours worth of work.
Yes. All in all, including coding.
Yes.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
only Next.js, right? Not the Tailwind stuff, because the Tailwind crash course alone is 4.5 hours.
Yes, yes. So I'm curious about learning just the what it's like to learn just what's necessary and then see from there. I can always do this bigger course afterwards. I'm curious for your resources.
Exactly. Like, but the thing is, I only looking at it. Like I only recommended other resources, right? Because from here on out now, I wanted to stay free. And this even teaches you how to build a blog. That's super interesting. Yeah,
What what
you can decide. You can decide.
Okay. So then, curious what it will be, what your resources will be, and excited for the next chapter.
Me too. It's so great. Oh, thank you for letting me be with you on this journey. But
It's
yeah,
been
we
insane.
are far we are far from done here. So
Yes.
thanks everyone for watching. Tune in tomorrow to see a little bit more of Leon's journey and maybe even the first decisions. Who knows? If you're watching the recording instead of live, it's always fun. You can always ask your questions. Other than that, this has been day 81 of 100 Days of Code with
Leon Andersen and my mentor.
Adolf Mill from 10x Dev. Always be coding
Always be spreading and mounting.
and learning.
Until tomorrow.
Bye.